Welcome to MMA on the Rocks. My name is Bill Welker. You are listening to episode 260 of the podcast, or you're joining us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Today's Sunday, October 17th. We're just blazing through October. It's pretty much Halloween. Next thing we're going to be eating turkey. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining. We have some exciting MMA action to talk about, some not so exciting MMA action to talk about, some yelling coaches, maybe some Bellator, whiskey, that whole bunch of stuff we're going to get into. But before we touch on any of it, let me introduce, all the way from New Jersey, where there's starting to be a chill in the air. And he just commented on the show. I'm going to put this, before I introduce him, and put this comment on the screen. He loves this show. That's right, everybody. It's Jeff, the animal Wilson. Jeff, I'm glad you got the memo about the attire today.
Dude, I was just thinking that because I was watching something else on my screen, a fight that I missed. But yeah, I like that we went with the cameo, Bill. Support the troops.
I think you meant camo.
Yeah, camouflage.
No. Cameo is when like somebody appears in a movie.
Oh, you mean like when all the Cheers characters appear in Frasier?
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Exactly. It worries me that you teach English to children.
Yeah, but cameo is not one of our vocabulary words, so it's fine. Yeah, I was thinking camouflage, but anyway, Bill. Yeah, it's starting to get chilly up here, dude. It's weird because I slept with the AC on last night, and halfway through the night, I'm like, I'm freezing, so I turned it off. It was weird. I haven't had to do that in a while because yesterday was pretty warm out. Yeah, so it's nice, and like you said, I feel like October is flying by. September took too long. I don't know if it's because I haven't taught in person in like a year and a half, and like now my body's getting used to it. So, but I feel like we're flying through it. At this point, it'll be Thanksgiving tomorrow, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's nothing fun in September, right? You know?
Yeah, that's true.
Like, you got like I don't know, it's start of the school year, like everybody's kind of bummed out because it's still nice outside, but everybody has to be inside. It's like kind of a bummer. And in October, it's like, well, now we got, pumpkin spice everything and, whatever. Which, by the way, Jeff, we went to a pumpkin patch this morning, which, the wife's been excited about. It's like Disneyland for white women. Because it's just like,
oh man, that's funny.
Like you could, if all you wanted was a pumpkin, you could just go to Walmart and get a pumpkin for $4. But why do that when you can go buy $70 worth of pumpkins and have some awesome Instagram pictures to show for it? It's like, it's every pumpkin patch is kind of the same too. They have like a rusty old car that they that like women would normally never want to go near. Like, ew, I don't want to go near that car, but now it's got flowers in it and like different colored pumpkins, and they want to post it on their Instagram. It's great. But the girls had a good time. That's all that matters. They had like a bounce house for the kids, and they had like guinea pigs and goats that you could pet. And, we picked out our pumpkins. What's funny is I get the marketing of it. Like pumpkins are hot, right? But, like $70 for a wagon full of pumpkins, when like if you bought like just the food portion, like a canned pumpkin, I could get the same amount of pumpkin for like $3.49, and that's after somebody else does all the work of gutting the thing and pureeing it. I gotta bring these things home and I carve them up to like puree the pumpkin, and then I'll put it out on my porch until it starts getting bugs inside it. And then I got to triple bag it and throw it in the dumpster or into the neighbor's yard behind me that I don't like.
Yeah, that's if the heat doesn't get to it first, Bill. Dude, so for Halloween, Bill, now we're on the subject of October, the sixth
Mhm.
grade teachers were all wearing different condiment shirts. So for those of you who don't know, I teach middle school. I teach sixth grade. So we get along pretty well. But I gotta say, the seventh and eighth grade teams, I don't know about them, but the sixth grade team, we're a little family. So we decided as a team to that it would be fun for the kids if we all dressed up in different condiments. And Bill, I thought out of the box for this one, so I'm going to be wearing a sriracha shirt
I was gonna
because
guess spicy mayo.
you're close, Bill. You're very close. Sriracha can be combined with mayo into spicy mayo. I saw it on an episode of MasterChef, and Gordon Ramsay was not pleased.
And sriracha comes from Korea, right?
I couldn't tell you, Bill. I just like the stuff on my rice.
They
That's all I
have
can tell you.
they have this new show on Netflix called Squid Games. Have you seen it yet?
I've seen the first episode, so no
It was
spoilers.
good.
Yeah, I definitely
No,
want to keep watching.
no spoilers. The only thing I'll spoil is the fact that I haven't had the chance to enjoy it because I watched it with the wife. She fell asleep during the end of the first episode. No big deal. I kind of filled her in. And the second episode, she fell asleep. And last night, she's like, "All right, you watch the fights on your laptop. I'm gonna rewatch the second episode, and then the fights are over early. We'll watch the third episode." I'm like, "Oh, great! Can't wait to see more of this show."
Bill, I can promise you that didn't happen.
I look over and she's knocked out. Like
Bill,
maybe
Bill's it
maybe
that you can't learn or you won't learn.
maybe 20 minutes into the episode. But whatever. You gotta adapt. It's like Bruce Lee says, Jeff. You gotta be like water. So I woke her up. I told her just go upstairs. I went outside. I had a cigar and I watched the fights. I went back and was able to watch all the prelims and everything. And we get the comment from Bruce Bob Trotter here. Worst main event and worst card in UFC history. Just admit it, bro. Admit it. I won't admit to the worst card. Like any card where you have Jim Miller and Andrei Arlovski winning, I can't put it down as the worst card in UFC history. The main event, though, I'll tell you all you need to know about it because we were putting my daughter to bed, and she was up a little late last night because, we went into town and got ice cream and stuff. It doesn't really matter, but she was up a little late, so I was watching. I turned on the fights, and the main event was on, and she was starting to fall asleep and looking at a book or whatever, and then she looked up and noticed the fight. It's not like I forced my 3-year-old to watch these fights. So before any of you parenting critics or any of you Karens out there start coming at me, like I don't make my daughter watch combat sports, but she sees it here and there. It's on in the house quite a bit. And she's watching Aspen Ladd and Norma Dumont go at it. And she says, "Daddy, why are they just moving around in a circle?" And I'm like, man, this kid just nailed it. Like she nailed the feelings of everybody watching this right now. But I got to say, in all seriousness, Jeff, this fight really delivered the fucking dud that we thought it would. It was horrible. It was hard. It was so bad that people had to make up shit to complain about, like the cornering of Aspen Ladd in this fight, which seems to be the topic of conversation today. I don't really know why. But tell me your thoughts on the main event and my daughter's very accurate commentary.
Bill, I think Ariana's commentary is absolutely correct when it comes to the first 3 rounds of that fight. That's all it was. I'll be honest with you, Bill. I was in and out of this one. I was reading a book, and just watching every now and then. Because Bill, it was more important to me to read than to watch this fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because this main event, Bill, and I texted you last night, what a waste of a Saturday night with this main event, man. The rest of the card wasn't bad. The fights that I did see, I enjoyed. But, dude, this main event, man, the first 3 rounds, like Ariana said, they're circling around each other. Dumont, I guess she's winning because she's throwing something at Aspen Ladd. And I didn't hate the corner advice. Listen, at the end of the 3rd round, her corner was like, listen, we got to finish this fight. You got to be aggressive. You got to start using your takedowns, close the distance. Not bad advice. Aspen Ladd, I felt like she won the 4th round. Okay. I can't remember what happened in the 5th round, Bill. That's how boring this fight was to me, Bill. But fill me in. What happened in that 5th round?
Well, I'll tell you, like in my house, my daughter knocked out right away after her observation. And then my wife was watching and I was telling her how it was supposed to be Holly Holm and how Aspen Ladd missed weight 2 weeks ago and that she moved up for this opportunity. And her question was, wait, this is the main event? My wife, who does not watch very many of these cards, was very unimpressed with the performance of these ladies. And then she started to doze off. So I kind of blame this fight for me not getting to see the 3rd episode of Squid Games last night because, this is what made her drowsy in the first place. Then we go downstairs and she knocked out watching Squid Games, probably replaying this fight in her head. But just to comment on the cornering, because it was the topic of conversation because there was nothing else to talk about in this fight. Nothing happened. So Aspen Ladd's corner, I don't even know the guy's name. He was I guess yelling in her face, like, what the fuck are you doing? Get your shit together. You got to throw more punches. And people took offense to this. For what reason, I can't imagine. Look, I'm going to speak to Jeff. I know you can relate to this as a teacher. I'm going to segue to that for you. But as a martial arts coach myself, I feel very qualified to comment on this. You have a different relationship with every athlete. You know how to get them motivated. For some, they need to be spoken to calmly, given advice, and, they need to break it down, with whatever their thought process is. Some people, you just need to grab them by the throat and tell them hey, you're fucking up. You're better than this. Get in there and do it right. Do it the way we both know you know how. And nobody seemed to have a problem when it happened when Aspen Ladd fought Yana Kunitskaya. And then, after that talking to, that verbal tongue lashing, she went out there and knocked Yana out in the next round. And I think if she went out there and knocked Norma Dumont out, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the fight was so dry and there was so little that happened that I guess people just need something to bitch about. So here we are. But again, just to circle it back to the teacher and coach relationship, Jeff, as a teacher, the same methods don't work for every student. You have your audio learners, your visual learners, your kinesthetic learners. You can't take the same approach to every single student. So I guess I'll just I'll tee you up with that before I ask you for your opinion on the situation.
Yeah, Bill, you're 100% right. And Bill, I coach girls soccer as well. And there are times where I'm going off on my players because I know that they can do better. Not necessarily swearing at them or anything, but my tone definitely changes, especially when I know that they can play better, or when I see that they're not communicating, or when I see that they're criticizing instead of helping each other. There's a time and place for everything, and there's times where I'm congratulating them and I'm talking to them calmly, but and even from player to player, like you said, or from student to student, or I'll take it one step further from class to class, because Bill, I know with my morning classes, they're not totally awake yet, so I don't have to raise my voice. Afternoon classes, it's after lunch, they're a little riled up. I gotta change. I can't be that calm anymore talking to them. And obviously I do it with respect, and my students and my players know I appreciate them, but they also know if something's not going well and we need to fix it, I'm not always going to be calm when I explain that to them. All right. So, and Bill, you understand as a coach as well, there are some guys, like you said, you can talk to them calmly. They'll understand and process the information faster. And some guys, you got to give them, like you said, a tongue lashing to wake them up. And maybe that works for Aspen Ladd. For me personally, as a player, when I played soccer, even as a jiu-jitsu fighter, when I, the times that I train, because it seems like I spend more time not training than training. But, for me, I I need some tough love, me personally. You know,
Mhm.
like I need you to tell me, hey, let's get this shit together. All right,
Yeah.
like that works for me. And it probably works for Aspen Ladd. I mean, like you said, against Yana Kunitskaya, it worked. That fourth round that I saw yesterday was completely different from the first three rounds that I saw out of Aspen Ladd. So, and
Yeah.
Mark Fellows is absolutely correct, dude. That red light, green light game. Sheesh.
No spoilers. Maybe people haven't seen it at all yet.
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm
I've had
sorry,
to use
Bill.
some of that tough love with you, Jeff. We've gone back, and you've given it back to me. Like that's you have to judge the relationship. Like when I'm at the gym, I teach an intro class on Wednesdays, right? So it's intro to Muay Thai clinch. And like in that class, I know I have to be a little bit more coddling. Like, if they're sparring or whatever, I have to say, like, hey, you know that thing at the end of your arm with like the 5 wiggly things attached to it? Put that next to your face. Oh, nice job, sweetheart. And I give them a little kiss on the cheek and tell them they're doing a great job. And then, I go and I teach the level 2 class where it's mostly fighters that I have a relationship with. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Put your hands up. Why? What are you thinking about? You're going to get knocked out. So, you have to, and maybe they don't have that kind of relationship and maybe the guy's just a dick, but either way, people were going as far to say that this is abuse. And like, where I don't like throwing that term around because like,
Yeah.
where do you draw the line? Because if you're training somebody, you've likely punched them in the face at some point. They've probably sparred together and Aspen Ladd has been hit by this guy. Are you going to call that abuse? This is her line of work. She does combat sports. It's like, if you're a plumber, you're going to get wet. Like, I think she can handle somebody shouting in her face. Some people need that kind of like military discipline to get it together. It worked for Bill Murray in Stripes. So, why can't it work for Aspen Ladd, even though it didn't last night? Let's move on from the main event, though, Jeff, because it'll depress me to keep talking about it. I'm going to have to strongly disagree with Bruce here as far as this being a dud of a card. I thought, there were some real gems on this card. Like, there were some boring decisions, but, if you look at it from top to bottom, there were some really exciting fights. I enjoyed the Andrei Arlovski Carlos Felipe fight. Felipe seemed confused as to why he lost. I don't know why. Like, Andrei Arlovski very clearly won the first 2 rounds on points. I thought he looked good. He was mixing it up with that calf kick. He was landing the harder shots to the point where Felipe was like constantly reacting to them and like trying to get the crowd riled up. The 12 people that were sitting cage side at the UFC Apex, but Arlovski kept it composed. He played spoiler for another young buck in this heavyweight division. And Felipe is a young buck. What is he, 42, 43 for heavyweight?
I couldn't tell you. But Bill, yeah, Arlovski looked awesome. I even gave him the third round, honestly, because Felipe, he was just too focused on getting the crowd riled up, and it was obvious that he was trying to get Arlovski to come after him, so that Felipe could land that one big shot, man. And he came really close in that third round, but Bill Arlovski's too smart for that, man. He's been doing this for too long. That was never going to work on him. So I think Felipe approached this the wrong way. But man, you think Arlovski, he's up there in years. He's been fighting probably longer than some of our listeners have been alive, our younger listeners. But man,
Yeah.
the fight IQ is still there, man. The movement is still there. Granted, he slowed down a lot in that third round. Don't get me wrong. But man, I don't know, man. Arlovski, he's a current Hall of Famer, and he's still doing this. I love it, man.
Yeah, and here's a guy who, there was a period where he just became a boxer. Early in his career, like you got to remember, Arlovski's a guy who was doing leg locks before it was cool. While the Danaher Death Squad was still in diapers, this guy was leg locking people in the UFC. And then there was a period where he was just like straight boxing. And then if he was getting outstruck by somebody, like that would be it, and he lost however many in a row and got cut from the UFC and got knocked out by Fedor in that awful affliction promotion that was around for like 1 or 2 events. But then, he evolved, changed up camps and, started adding new tools and did what he had to do to make himself relevant again. And, they keep trying to make a name off these young kids by putting them in there with Andrei Arlovski, and Arlovski was like, "Yet," or whatever they say in Belarus. So that was good. I enjoyed that fight. The fight I enjoyed the most had to be, and I'm sure you agree with me, Jeff, Jim fucking Miller. Wow. I mean, 50 fights, like 30 fights in the UFC. I don't even know the numbers, but they're astounding, especially, considering whatever percentage of those fights he fought with Lyme disease, not even knowing he had it, like pre-diagnosis, just getting in there exhausted and his body beat to shit and, losing some fights, winning some fights, and then just having this resurgence after he figures out what's going on. Now he's talking about appearing in UFC 300. He wants to fight in UFC 100, 200, and 300. How do you not love Jim Miller? And Eric Gonzalez, give him credit. Tough kid making his UFC debut. Can't get much tougher of a debut than that against Jim Miller. Gonzalez had the most fans in the arena, I think, of any fight. I don't know how he got all those people in there, but there was a lot of people cheering for him. But I think Jim Miller had the most fans globally on this entire card because everybody was thrilled for Jim Miller when he knocked this kid out. And they say power is the last thing to go, Jeff. In Jim Miller's case, power was the last thing to be added to his arsenal. Jim Miller's never knocking people out like this. Where did that left hand come from? Give me your thoughts on what are they calling him now? A10? Or what's the nickname they were calling him?
I'm not sure, Bill, but dude, see Jim Miller, man. I was already excited for this fight. I forgot that Jim Miller was on the card, but man, that first round, wasn't too bad. It looked pretty, there were some good exchanges. And then in that second round, dude, Jim Miller just comes out and he would not have it, man. And it looked like a 3-2 or a 1-2 combination where he just dropped Eric Gonzalez, man. I thought the stoppage was good because he folded up like a lawn chair and he was not protecting himself on the ground. But man, dude, I mean, what else can you say about Jim Miller? Tough guy, well-rounded. And Bill, now he's got knockout power coming in. I mean, Bill, I wouldn't put it past him to be on that UFC 300 card.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Made his UFC debut in 2008, Jeff. What were you doing in 2008?
Oh, wait, I was a sophomore in high school. So I was playing JV soccer.
Okay. I think I was, I guess I was just out of college, 2008. So, Jim Miller's been fighting in the UFC, long before you and I were. We both know the man who gave him his black belt, Mr. Jamie Cruz of Henzo Gracie Woodland Park, which rest in peace, Henzo Gracie Woodland Park got damaged in the floods from that last storm.
Yeah, but they have moved over to Totowa, Bill. Jamie Cruz just announced that on his Instagram. Shout out to Professor Jamie Cruz. I'm gonna check it out as soon as I can because soccer season's almost over, Bill, and I'm itching to train.
We're not in Kansas anymore, Totowa.
There you go. That should be the name of the episode, dude. I don't know if anybody living outside of New Jersey would get it, but that was good, Bill.
Yeah, it's either gonna be that or lad and egg.
I like lad and egg better. Oh
man, that main event sucked. Full disclosure, folks. I had to update my computer, and while I was waiting the 2 hours for it to load. It seemed like I was sitting here drinking some of this Maker's Mark cask strength I was telling you all about. So if you see anything on it that says cask strength, that means like they take it out of the barrel and they don't adjust the proof. Like sometimes, they'll add water or whatever, or age something a little more to bring the proof down. But when you see something cask strength, it's like when they pour it out of the bottle, that's how strong it is. When they pour it out of the barrel, that's how strong it is. It goes right into the bottle. So this particular bottle, and you'll see the proof will vary on these. So this particular one is 108.7 proof. You could see two bottles next to each other in the store and there'll be different proofs and they'll have slightly different flavor profiles as well. This is not I would not say this is a beginner's whiskey. You kind of have to have a palate for whiskey to drink this, especially straight the way I am. The average person who enjoys a nice wheated bourbon here and there, they might like this on the rocks, like a little bit watered down to bring the proof down a little bit, make it a little bit more approachable, but really complex for a bourbon, like a lot of like toasted cereal notes, like a corn cereal, like very sweet, a little kind of fall spice to it. It almost makes me want to go back to the pumpkin patch and spend another $70, Jeff. Almost.
I was just gonna say almost.
Yeah, so Maker's Mark. And I was saying last week, Jeff, that Maker's Mark is one of those brands that I always stayed away from because I thought it was kind of gimmicky because they put like the wax on the top of the bottle and they had like a little bullet theme going on for a while. I'm like, it's cheesy, but I do enjoy Maker's Mark whiskey. Like they do make really nice stuff. It is a wheated whiskey, so a wheated bourbon rather. So in order to be considered bourbon, it's got to be at least 51% corn, right, Jeff? So the other 49% could be, barley, wheat, or rye. And if it's more rye in that 49%, you're going to get a spicier kind of profile. If it's more wheat, it's going to be kind of smoother, sweeter. And if it's more barley, it's going to have, kind of like a smokier, scotchier type flavor profile. But Maker's Mark wheated bourbon, so it's on the sweet side. Any case, Manon Fiorot, unanimous decision over Mayra Bueno Silva. That was a pretty one-sided fight. I'll admit to you guys, I watched that one in fast forward because they have like the 10-second skip ahead on ESPN Plus. And since I watched the main event first and then watched everything else, I kind of skipped. But every time I hit the button, it was Fiorot just unloading combinations on Silva. So it was like skip, and it's like bang, 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 skip, bang, bang, skip, bang, bang, bang. So I got the gist, I think. Any thoughts on that one, Jeff, or can we move on to more exciting fights?
We can move on. I missed this one. I started watching the card when Jim Miller versus Eric Gonzalez was on. Yeah, I went back and watched like 2 fights, but this was not one of them, Bill.
One that you need to go back and watch is Nate Landwehr and Ludovic Klein. This was like the technical striker in Klein against Landwehr, who's more of a brawler and just like wacky on the microphone, man. He's like fun. I don't know where he's from, like some kind of southern state. He's got like this like Bama man, Florida man vibe to him, where he's just kind of naturally funny. But yeah, back and forth fight, and then in the third round, Landwehr drops Klein and then gets him in an anaconda choke and puts an end to the fight. This was an exciting one. I definitely recommend going back to watch this one. And then the one you were just watching, Jeff, Bruno Silva and Andrew Sanchez, since it's fresh on your mind. Give me your thoughts.
Bill, Silva versus Sanchez. It's on ESPN Plus. definitely go back and watch this one, Bill. I was surprised because Landwehr versus Klein was actually not on ESPN Plus when I went and looked at the library, but um, Volkanovski versus Brian Ortega from the last pay per view was on. So definitely go back and watch that one. But so was Silva and Sanchez. And Bill, the first 2 rounds were awesome for Andrew Sanchez. You know, college wrestler, was able to take down Silva basically at will and then control him on the ground. But Bill, I don't know, and I was just talking about this. I don't know what happened, but in that third round, Bruno Silva, I guess he's just got great cardio, but he did not look like he had been on his back under a wrestler for 2 rounds. And he came out swinging. Andrew Sanchez was tired from the grappling. He wasn't really throwing anything in response, and Silva was able to just tough it out and just unload on Andrew Sanchez, was tearing at the body, man, which was one of the things I really noticed. And that couldn't have helped Sanchez cause at all. But man, what a fight. Definitely one to go back and watch.
Yeah, and not just any wrestler, a wrestler the size of Andrew Sanchez. Like that guy's back looks like a side of beef.
Yeah.
His Andrew Sanchez's back looks like the side of beef that Rocky's punching in the refrigerator in Rocky 1. Like it's just muscles on top of muscles and like a thin layer of skin stretched over it. Like
I love your descriptive language. That was good.
Thanks. I'm a poet at heart. It's just cask-strength bourbon helps too. Yeah, I thought it was a great fight. I mean, what a come from behind victory for Bruno Silva, man. He gets laid on top of and like dominated for 2 rounds, and then and let's not forget the low blows. There was 3 low blows in this fight. So the first one unintentional. The second one, Sanchez was kind of posting with his leg and Silva ran into it. So you can't take the point there. But then the third one, Silva was pissed. And maybe that's what won him the fight, because he was so pissed from that nut shot, that third one, that he came back and beat the shit out of Andrew Sanchez. And I love the corner of Bruno Silva, because they watch their guy get out grappled for 2 rounds, get hit in the nuts, and then knock the guy out. And they're like, black belt. And then they awarded him his black belt right after that. Like, you know what? You may not be able to grapple against a really high level grappler, but you know how to knock one out. So here's your black belt, Bruno. Nice job. I hope your nuts are okay. Maybe this belt will help cover them up while they're swollen for the next 3 weeks.
Oh man.
So that was fun. The Danny Roberts Ramazan Emeev fight was fun. I didn't totally understand the judging here, because Emeev controlled the fight on the ground and was even landing hard shots on the feet. The fight was largely Danny Roberts like trying to stop the takedowns of Ramazan Emeev. And Danny Roberts won the split decision. Sal D'Amato, who, I typically align with as a judge, like he seems to be, pretty consistent. He gave the fight to Emeev. I kind of thought Emeev had this one as well. Danny Roberts was doing a good job stuffing the takedowns, but he didn't stuff all of them. And then when he was on the ground, he was a little bit lost. And then Emeev was holding his own on the feet too. So it's not like it was one-sided on the feet. But nonetheless, congrats to Danny Roberts, who had like a 2-year layoff and came in and got a win over a really tough opponent in Ramazan Emeev, like a guy that probably nobody really wants to fight, because his grappling is just scary and the dude doesn't get tired. So there's that. I'll just go over the rest of the card real quick. Luana Carolina, unanimous decision over Lupita Godinez. I was in and out on this one, but to me, it looked like Godinez dominated the first round, and then it was kind of close thereafter. But, all 3 judges said Luana, so, Luana it is. And then it's Dana Batjarel with probably the most one-sided beating of the night over Brandon Davis. First, This was an impressive one. He just kind of swarmed him, man. And this guy is Mongolian, I
Yep.
believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, not a whole lot of Mongols running around these days. But if you run into one, like, don't let him hit you in the face, because this guy's a monster. You did catch this one, yeah, Jeff?
Yeah, but I was watching this one right before you texted me to start the show, man. Yeah, this dude, Dana Batgarel, man, he's got some scary power. He just comes forward, man. Um, yeah, like you said, he swarmed Brandon Davis. Didn't give him a chance to ever get into that fight, man. Definitely go back and watch that one.
Mm-hmm. And then Ariane Carnelossi, who, definitely doesn't pass the eye test when it comes to possible USADA violations. Third round rear naked choke over Estela Nunez. That fight was all right. But, overall, as a whole, you had great knockouts, you had submissions, you had Jim Miller with a huge upset over a newcomer, you had Andrei Arlovski winning. You had the wild fight between Landwehr and Klein, the come from behind victory of Silva over Andrew Sanchez, and then he gets. Overall, I wouldn't complain about this card. I feel like I would have been more mad about it if I watched the whole card and was waiting for the main event and it came on like late, and then I had to watch that awful display of mixed martial arts. But the fact that I saw it and my expectations were set so low, and then I went back and watched the rest of the card, I was pleasantly surprised, Jeff.
Yeah, man. The card overall was not bad. But having the main event as your last memory, I could see that really ruining it for a lot of fans.
Yeah, that would put a bad taste in my mouth for sure. Anything else on that card, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
All right, so let me just make sure this is next week. Yeah, October 23rd, which happens to be the wife's birthday. So I don't know if I'm gonna have the opportunity to watch this one unless she falls asleep during the Squid Games, and I'll flip on the old ESPN Plus. Paulo Costa and Marvin Vittori. If this fight happens, Costa always has some weird things going on with him. Like I don't know if he's like ducking drug tests or if he's just like very prone to injuries, but seems to have to pull out of fights a lot, and Vittori seems to always have bad luck with his opponents pulling out the week of fights. So I'm not getting my hopes up for this one, but I would really like to see this fight if it comes together. But give me your thoughts on this main event here, Jeff.
Yeah, dude. I'm waiting with bated breath, Bill. But man, Costa versus Marvin Vittori, man, that just sounds like a really fun fight. These are two guys that nobody is lining up to fight in the middleweight division, man. Paulo Costa, especially, man. Only loss was to Israel Adesanya. So, that might be one of the one of the more recent memories of him. But don't get it twisted, man. Paulo Costa's been tearing up the middleweight division up until he ran into Izzy Adesanya. And Marvin Vittori has quite a few wins as well in that middleweight division. And Bill, I'm still of the opinion that he won the first fight with Israel Adesanya. Definitely lost the second one, but I still think he won the first one. But yeah, dude, Vittori can mix it up pretty well. I'm curious to see how he deals with Paulo Costa's raw power, man. But this will be a great fight if it comes together. And Bill, I'm not hating the rest of this card either. I see Francisco Trinaldo, who's been fighting in the UFC probably longer than I've been alive. So I cannot wait, man.
Yeah, I've been a fan of Francisco Trinaldo since he was the dad on the Wayans brothers.
Oh man.
But just to go back to the main to the main event real quick. Mark Fellows says fun fight. But he's buying a bottle of Chianti for this one. Does that mean you're rooting for the Italian, Mark? Let us know what you mean by that one. Or are you gonna become a cannibal like Hannibal Lecter. You remember that scene from Silence of the Lambs, Jeff?
Bill, The Silence of the Lambs is like my third favorite movie. Come on, I love that movie.
Well, I never know, Jeff, because like sometimes these things from past generations you haven't been exposed to, like Cheers and Seinfeld. But yeah, pretty famous line. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti, and he mispronounces the name of the wine, which is like he's supposed to be like this intellectual, but he doesn't know how to say Chianti. Anyway, little nerd irony there, I guess. Yeah. Grant Dawson and Ricky Glenn, that's a fucking fun fight. Those are two guys who bring it. Jessica Rose Clark, she's got a big following. She's getting in there with Jocelyn Edwards and Bruce Leroy against Sangwoo Choi. Like you said, Dwight Grant and Francisco Trinaldo, who's how old is Trinaldo now? 71? 72? I feel like he's one of these guys that like he probably like lied about his age at some point. Because his body is 25, but his face is 95. Like, what's going on here, Jeff?
Yeah, dude, I couldn't explain Francisco Trinaldo to somebody if they asked me to describe him. But hey, man, he's got a pretty solid record: 26 wins, only 8 losses, considering he's been fighting for about 43 years.
It's been at least, right? I gotta say, Jeff, there's not a whole lot that's jumping off the page to me. We got Jonathan Martinez, who I enjoy fighting. He's watching fight. He's on the first fight of the night, but does not have an opponent yet.
Bill, it looks like it says unknown fighter over here.
Oh yeah, he's taking on unknown fighter. Now it's gonna be a tough matchup for him. Alon Patrick and Mason Jones, I guess. There's not a lot of star power on this one, but I always stay positive about these kinds of cards because
Bill, what do you mean, man? I'm seeing hold on, scroll down a little bit. And I agree with Mark Fellows. I'm rooting for Jessie Jess as well. I'm a fan of hers. Bill, we got Jai Herbert on here against Kama Worthy. That's going to be an awesome fight. I think somebody goes to sleep in that fight. We have Laureano Staropoli, who's an awesome fighter as well. Bill, I'm excited for some of these, man. I think this card's going to pleasantly surprise everybody.
Can we go back to the fact that Mark Fellows says that if Jessie Jess wins, he's going to drink the Chianti from a shoe?
I don't know. I don't know if the notes will take well to the bottom of a shoe.
Yeah, like, does it really bring out the tannins? All right, Mark. Well, if this happens, you're going to have to videotape it for us, and we're going to have to share it on the show. So if you do, and again, not again, I'll say for the first time, I don't encourage this kind of behavior, but like if you do it, I want to see it.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's that. Speaking of things I want to see, Jeff, our boy Billy Quarantello was just announced this weekend is going to be on the main card at Madison Square Garden.
No way.
Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington 2. I believe it's UFC 266, 268. Something like that. No
way, dude.
Billy's on the main card against Shane Burgos. And
dude.
I hate this and I love it at the same time because I'm a fan of Shane Burgos. That guy has not put on a boring fight, in my opinion. That kid can scrap, but really cute. So It's going to be an exciting one for me. It's going to be nerve-wracking. Billy Q is in the spotlight where he belongs. I mean, this kid was bred to be fighting in front of a crowd on the main card at Madison Square Garden. First time back at the Garden since the pandemic. Usman Covington too. This is a huge card. I'm so happy for Billy Q. I mean, if you had the opportunity to know this guy, and I know you've had a chance to talk to him a little bit, Jeff, like he's just the kind of guy that you love when good things happen for him because he's always the hardest worker in the room. He's such a positive dude. Never really has a bad thing to say about anybody. He's always playful, always in good spirits. Yeah, I'm just really happy for my boy Billy Q.
Dude, I actually did not know that. I'm excited, man. That sounds like an awesome fight, man. And that whole card, that I believe it's November 6th. And I'm just so excited for it, man, because you have that rematch, Covington versus Kamaru Usman. Then you have thank you, Bill, for pulling it up. Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Wei Li is going to be awesome as well. Justin Gaethje's going to be on the card against Michael Chandler. Oh man, Frankie Edgar's on here against Marlon Cheeto Vera. That's going to be awesome. Bill, I cannot wait. I feel like this card is going to make up for this weekend's and last weekend's cards. But dude, Shane Burgos versus Billy Quarantillo. Dude, that fight's going to be nuts, man. It's going to be balls to the walls. I think that has the potential to be fight of the night along with Gaethje versus Chandler. Bill, I feel like the UFC is pulling out all the stops, man.
Yeah.
For this
and how
card.
about this? Ally Quinta against Bobby Green.
Jeez, that's going to be awesome too.
And the UFC hasn't updated their website because it was just announced this weekend that Billy Q got bumped up to the main event, the main card. And he's still on the prelims here, but you got Edmund Shabazian and Nasruddin Imavov. And let's not forget, like, say what you want about Colby Covington. The first fight with Kamaru Usman was amazing. Mm-hmm. That was such an awesome fight. You have two incredible wrestlers, a Division I All-American and Colby Covington, and a Division II national champion in Kamaru Usman. And these guys punched each other in the face for 4.5 rounds. Like, how do you not love this rematch? Like, I'm so excited for it. I'm a fan of both fighters. Like, only as fighters. Like, off camera, neither one of them is really like appealing to me for different reasons. Like, Usman's a little too dry for me and Covington's a little too over the top, but in the cage, I'm excited to see either one of these guys fight any given night.
Yeah, man. Bill, I think the UFC is definitely making us it's definitely worth the wait for that card, man. And like we said at the top of the show, man, October's flying by, so that card's right around the corner. This is it's going to be a fun couple of weeks for the UFC fans, dude.
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna have to do something big for that fight. That's the weekend you should plan to come down here, Jeff.
Yeah, Bill, I think that's a good idea because I don't know what we're actually in kind of the postseason now with the girls soccer team. For JV, our last game is Monday. Yesterday, the varsity team won in our county tournament, so we play on Tuesday now. But I think the state championships will be wrapped up, so that might be a good weekend for me to come down, even if it's just like a day or two. Fly back Sunday morning.
Yeah, forfeit the last couple games and get down here and let's watch some fights.
Yeah, sounds like a plan to me, Bill. Let's do it. Yeah, Bill, but I think we can make it work.
You do like Pete Rose and bet against your own team and then and then make sure they lose. Yeah, exciting stuff on the horizon. And like I get why people were upset with Saturday night but I wouldn't say it was most disappointing fight because, like, Ngannou versus Lewis is the gold standard, right? Because leading up to that, we're like, this is going to be the most epic heavyweight battle ever. Somebody's going to get their head knocked off. And then it sucked. But with Aspen Ladd and Dumont, it was like, oh, this is the worst main event. And then the fight happens and everybody's like, see? I told you this was going to suck. And it did. So it's like, kind of met everybody's expectations. So, and it's not going to help the case for keeping that 145-pound division around. Like, I have a feeling like, Chris Cyborg's not making any money elsewhere. Like, there's Kayla Harrison's got a little bit of traction, but she's got work to do to even get down to 145 pounds. And the UFC's not interested in her anyway because she's not going to fight her teammate Amanda Nunes. So there's like nothing out there that's like in favor of salvaging this division. So we might have just seen Aspen Ladd and Dumont kind of bury the division. And I don't think they're going to let Aspen Ladd go back to 135 after those two weigh-in mishaps. I wouldn't be totally surprised if they parted ways with her after this. I don't think it's deserved. Like, I think, she's still put on some good performances, but it's like you're kind of in a dead division because you couldn't make weight twice for the division below. And you put on the biggest, you laid the biggest egg of the year in terms of main events. Like, it was not enjoyable for people to watch. So there's that. Luis Pena was officially cut from the UFC, Jeff.
Oh, wow.
And here's my problem with this whole thing is I try to explain this as simply as possible, but people still seem to have an issue like, well, they cut Luis Pena, but they didn't cut Jon Jones. And listen, if your reason for wanting to see them get cut is to punish them, then you can't have the same punishment for each of these fighters. It's two different scenarios. Just like I was talking about earlier, how coaches have different relationships with different fighters. Like, some of them you need to yell at them to motivate them. Some of them you need to coddle them a little bit. It's the same kind of thing with punishing fighters. If you really want to hurt Luis Pena, you cut him from the UFC because that's as high as he's going to get. He might get signed by another organization somewhere, but it's not like he has like a huge following or like media outlets are going to cover him wherever he goes, at least after, beyond his first fight in ONE or Bellator or whatever. The UFC is pretty much where he peaks. So he fucks up in his personal life, cut him, get rid of him. That punishes him. But with Jon Jones, and I've said this several times before, you don't punish him by cutting him from the UFC. You relinquish whatever control you have over him. You punish him by keeping him in his contract and icing him on the bench. You don't have to put him in fights. And legally, you only have to offer him so many fights a year. So you could say like, hey, John, you want to fight, I don't know, Alistair Overeem? Like, give him a fight that just doesn't make sense. And he's like, no. And you're like, all right, well, that's one. And like, hey, John, you want to go back down to light heavyweight, fight Thiago Santos again? No. That's two. And, leverage anymore. Keep him on the bench and punish him that way. And speaking of Jon Jones, he released a statement because his coach Mike Winkeljohn cut ties with him.
Wow.
And this made me even more annoyed, Jeff, because Jon Jones released a statement about it. Said he had a long, hard phone call conversation with Coach Wink, and he's heartbroken that his trainer for such a long time would part ways with him like this. And he thanked everybody who still supports him. So he's not heartbroken that he continually, with the decisions that he makes, hurts the people in his life closest to him. He's heartbroken that one of the people closest to him in his life won't tolerate it anymore and doesn't want to be a part of it. this is the problem, Jeff. It's all about Jon Jones. You know, it's all about how he feels and how people make him feel. And he has zero empathy for the people around him. And he even said, like, you know, I would never hurt my fiance, and we didn't actually argue in front of the kids, and spewing out a bunch of just bullshit. And then, you know, Winklejohn, after Jon Jones's 6th arrest, says, like, I'm out, man. I don't want to watch you self-destruct anymore. And Jon Jones is like, man, this is really heartbreaking to me. Will you guys all feel bad for me? My coach doesn't want to be in my life after I got arrested for the 6th time. And it really looks like, according to all the police reports, that I beat the shit out of my fiance in front of my children because my children were asking the security guards to call the police. But guys, I'm heartbroken because my coach doesn't want to be around me anymore. I'm at a loss, Jeff. Like, I can't defend a guy anymore. I'm officially off the Jon Jones bandwagon. Like, if you really twist my arm, I'll have to tell you, I still think he's the most skilled mixed martial artist to ever do it. But, man, as a human being, you know, worst of all time. I mean, is there an acronym for that? The GOAT is the greatest of all time. Is there a WOT? Because he's he's in contention for it.
Damn, Bill. I don't know how to react to that because, you know, he's just a narcissist at this point. You know, no regard for anything outside of him, and like you said, you know, it's all about how he feels now. You know, I can't even imagine how his children feel. You know, having to see that, having to see their father, who claims to love their mom, you know, hurt someone that he's supposed to love, you know. And I'm glad that his children had the sense to tell someone to call the police, because they understood that this shouldn't happen. And you know, they haven't even lived full lives yet. And Jon Jones, who's 30 something, he's lived his life and he's learned his lessons. It still doesn't click in his head, man. It's just unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, kids are a lot more aware than we give them credit for, you know? Like I told you, Jeff, my 3-year-old, she summed up the Aspen lad fight like better than I could have done. We've been doing this podcast for over 5 years.
Yeah, I think it's over 5 years. Yep.
Yeah, over 5. July was 5 years. And, you know, analyzing martial arts, I've been doing martial arts since I was 7 years old. And she summed up that main event better than I could have. Daddy, why are they just moving in circles? So kids know what's going on. They might not always be able to articulate it in great detail, but they're aware of everything. Jon Jones has no self-awareness. He has no awareness of the way people feel around him. And he just thinks like, well, I'm being attacked for no reason. Like, dude, you've been arrested 6 times. The problem is you. I don't know how else to say it. I don't know if there's anybody who can, you know, get it through his thick head that he's the problem. And I'm afraid, Jeff, that it's going to end really badly because he's going to get somebody like really hurt, you know, like more than just, you know, smacking somebody around, more than just the emotional scarring of seeing your mother get hit and you know, yelled at and screamed at, and while you're just trying to take out cash to go back to the strip club. Like, it's going to take more for him to really realize it. And that's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm really, you know, bothers me about this whole situation and why I'll continue to bring it up. And, but I still don't think the UFC should cut him. I think that just rewards him, because then he'll feel like, Oh, well, the UFC never really cared about me, and they never treated me right. And entire event because I couldn't pass a drug test. Like they never treated me right, and they didn't pay me the money I wanted to fight Francis Ngannou. So like I'm gonna be so much happier fighting for one. You're vilifying him by cutting him. You're making him think that everything in his head is correct. He really is the victim. He's going to be able to play that up. He's going to get a shitload of money to go fight somewhere else. And you're giving up all the control. Keep him under contract. Keep him on the bench. Don't let him fight. Keep him unemployed. And that's the way to punish him. Luis Pena, yeah, cut him. You know, he beat up his girlfriend a couple of times. He didn't learn his lesson. Like, he's clearly got some things to work out. Like, cage fighting is not the profession that's healthy for him to be in. He needs to go somewhere where he can get some help and get away from all this. Anyway, Jeff, any kind of closing thoughts on we talked about it all, you know, dud main events and exciting fights and submissions and knockouts and Jim Miller and Andrei Arlovski winning on the same card, kind of nostalgia and cask-strength whiskey and coaching strategies, teaching strategies. We've been all over the map today, Jeff. How do you want to sum it all up?
Bill, I think that at the end of the day, you know, that's all the stuff we love about this sport, you know, minus the outside stuff, you know. But yeah, when we're watching the sport, that's what we love about it. And I think we're going to be spoiled with the next couple of cards, starting with next week, man. I think that card is a dark horse in terms of the cards that we've seen in October, because we've been expecting the last two cards to be not great, which they delivered. But this card, nobody's got any expectations of it. That November card, that first November card is looking awesome. And it's going to be back-to-back pay-per-views. Isn't there a pay-per-view at the end of October as well on the 30th? Or am I making that up in my head?
I can check real quick. Let's pull up the old Sherdog here.
Yeah. October 30th. It's going to be Blachowicz versus
Sijara. Oh, that's awesome too.
For the light heavyweight championship. Yeah,
man.
Dude. I'm telling you, Bill.
And then
when have I ever steered you wrong?
The second weekend in November, we got Max Holloway and Yair Rodriguez. This is, man, I'm so excited. I fucking love MMA, Jeff. Like, this is, I don't know how you have any complaints about this sport. Like, all right, so they laid one egg in a main event, but the rest of the card was decent, watchable, fun, you know, had some highlights. And there's so much great stuff on the horizon. We get stuff, you know, 50 weeks out of the year. Also, I don't know if you caught Bellator, Jeff, but Corey Anderson knocked out Ryan Bader in the first round last night.
No way. Wow.
Yeah.
Corey Anderson
dropped him with a fast right hand, I believe it was. Got on top and just blasted him. And it was over and out.
Nice. Was that part of a tournament or anything, or was that just Anderson making his Bellator debut?
Yeah, I think it was just that because and Bader's not the champ anymore, I believe. I totally fell off with Bellator.
Like, yeah, because he was last time I was into I was paying attention. I believe Ryan Bader was the light heavyweight and heavyweight champion.
Yeah,
of Bellator.
I believe he's neither of those currently. So I don't know.
Yeah, still a tough dude. That's a great win for Corey Anderson, dude. He's someone that I felt like the UFC should have given more of a chance to, but I'm glad Bellator picked him up, man. That's a great win for him.
Yeah, and then Fedor is fighting next week against somebody named Johnson. So,
yeah, but that's not Rumble Johnson, right?
No, I don't believe so. Timothy Johnson.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's going to be in Moscow, actually. Oh, yeah, I definitely won't watch that, but it's interesting that it exists. Yeah. Anyway, you know what else exists, Jeff? MMA on the Rocks merchandise. So if you often find yourself over the top, under the influence, or both, you can grab some t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops. It's getting to be hoodie season now. So buy yourself a hoodie that your girlfriend can steal from you that says Over the Top Under the Influence through our friends at Team Reaper. The website is reaper1.co. You can use the promo code MMA Rocks 10, save yourself 10% on your entire order, and grab some swag and represent the show. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Thank you, as always. Hey, if you could, we've been getting some thumbs down on the YouTube videos. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up on there, because it helps our algorithm, and drop a few comments on the YouTube videos as well. It's great that you guys comment during the show and on social media, but comments on YouTube really go a long way, as well as the thumbs up. Help bump us up there, so we're up there with some of the other top MMA shows, whatever they are now. I don't even know. I have like a handful of them that I watch, and I watch like my friends' shows. But I know there are shows that are above us, so help us get up there with those guys. If you want us to keep providing all this fantastic content. Anything else you want to get off your chest, Jeff?
That's all I got for you, Bill. At least for this week.
Until next time.